WNBC. 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 You ever see that, Private Parts?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
it's been a while. Funny enough, I remember that was the movie. Like, my parents very rarely ever made me leave the room if something was like too racy or whatever. But for whatever reason, that movie, I just remember there was a certain part. I don't remember what part it was, but I was like just playing with my Hot Wheels cars or whatever, and they're like, "Okay, you need to leave the room." Like
Jenna Jameson's tits are way too much for a kid.
Damn, how young are you?
What year did that movie come out?
90.
Must have been like 90. Yeah, I don't know.
97, 98-ish.
90s.
Well, it was either on pay-per-view or HBO. And my dad was definitely one of those dudes that got ripped off cable. So like, he had all the pay-per-view channels.
Right.
And they never rented shit. So it was probably, I would say 98, 90. I was
it was 97. I just looked it up.
So I was less than 10 years old.
Right on.
Just using, because it probably can't hit HBO the year later. And
if any of you are wondering who he is Michael Viers, local Milwaukee filmmaker, podcaster.
I guess so.
Film
like
guy, connoisseur.
I'm just some dude. Yeah, I guess originally a filmmaker, though it's been a couple years since I've made anything. And that's actually why I started the podcast. I got really fucking depressed. I'm like, man, filmmaking's hard. I haven't made anything in a while. What the fuck am I going to do? I just need something to keep my love for film there. And I was like, well, I could talk about it.
Dude, we could do this shit till the day we die. Making films is a pain in the dick.
Yeah, but ultimately, because I realized when I was in college, I was watching movies to inspire myself to keep making films. And when I wasn't making as many or wasn't making them as fast as you sit there like, why am I still watching these? What am I inspiring myself for? So, I thought, well, can I be the white Elvis Mitchell? And, started talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Part of it's just because you just want to be able to make your living, hopefully somehow through your love of movies. So then you start to try and make them, because that's one of the main ways, probably the main way to make a living in film is making films. Or working in production or whatever.
Well, it's also weird too, because like I never like I yes, that's everyone's goal to make money making films, but I did everything complete opposite that makes money.
Yeah,
I didn't freelance. I didn't grip. I chose not to go into the machine, and I'm just making weird little films for myself. I don't know if I actually want to make money at this, but,
right. That's the way to do it, honestly. But or to find an audience with your weird little films. And it's enough of a, Chris and I always talk about this, can there be a creative middle class? Does it have to be rags or riches with this shit, And it's pretty much, if you're trying to work in Hollywood, it's rags or riches. But anyway, we're here to talk. This is my favorite movie episode, and we're here to talk about your favorite movie, which is
John Carpenter's Halloween.
There it is. Should have had that playing through the whole opening. Would have blown the reveal.
I didn't want to blow the reveal.
I was not expecting a guitar. Like, I feel like I looked at his camera when I started hearing it. I feel like a guitar just came out of nowhere. I was just
like, where is that from?
Yeah.
He carries one on his hip like a samurai with a katana and shit. The bard. All right, Halloween. Yes. Out of all the films, out of all the horror films, out of all the slasher films, even.
Yes.
Halloween's the one that got you.
Yeah, and I've thought about this, and I've analyzed this, and I've been thinking to myself, it's like, once again, like, why Halloween? I've seen better movies. I'm not going to say it's the best movie ever made. I've seen better slasher films. I've seen better John Carpenter films, but this is the one that really grabbed me. And I think it's just because it hit me. I saw it at the right time. I saw it in a transitional period of my life when I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just started getting interested in movies beyond just watching them on a Friday night. And this movie, and I should also specify, I was afraid of horror films as a kid. I couldn't even watch the commercials.
You give me hope, because my 7-year-old is scared of all kinds of shit like this. Not even remotely close to watching horror movies yet. I can't wait.
It was one of those things, like, I couldn't even watch the commercials, and because I was afraid that someone was fucking gonna abduct me. And it was my rule in my head that if I could make it to 1 a.m., I could sleep then because it's officially morning and nothing bad happens in the morning, even though it's still dark out.
Kid logic, love it.
Yeah, and so like this is also one of the films I saw. Like I just started getting into the idea of watching horror films when I saw the film, and I just kind of jumped into the deep end, and it was. And I don't mean this in a negative way. I watched the film and I rewatched it right afterwards and kind of sat there. And this is when I started getting into idea of making movies. And I was like, I think I can make this. I think I can see how this movie's made. I can,
it's almost like it's sort of basic nature.
Yeah,
was a good thing in that regard because it looked accessible and like
just houses and people.
Because like the first thing I ever saw in terms of filmmaking was. Like I feel like every year they used to show The Wizard of Oz, and they would always show like the making of whenever the 100 making of things they've made about that movie, and I've probably seen them all because that movie still impresses me.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then I remember it was one of the first DVDs I ever rented was War of the Worlds, the Steven Spielberg film, and it was the first time I ever saw a behind the scenes featurette, and I was like, holy shit, people made this.
Yes.
This is a movie that people made. There's lights there. Oh, that's how they do that. What's that dude holding the microphone doing? Well, that makes sense. But, you think about that movie being made, like if someone were to come up to you and was like, hey, can you make this yourself? I'm like, no. Right. No. But you see like Halloween or Night of the Living Dead, you'd be like, okay, it still seems like it's probably difficult, but I can wrap my mind around this piece.
Right. Get some people together. I mean, this movie doesn't even have a ton of gore. Special effects, anything really. It's mostly just dread and suspense is what it's after,
Yeah, it's just
the most effective shit anyway.
It takes its time. It's slow. It's in some ways some people would probably say it's too slow, and I'm honestly surprised this movie is still as relevant as it is because I rewatch this movie at least twice a year. And every time I watch it, I'd be like, people shouldn't like this. Or like newer audiences, newer horror fans shouldn't like this. But
they got Rob Zombies to watch,
Yeah.
Which we can
What do you think of this? Yeah. What do you think of all the sequels, the reboots, etc.?
I like
of the franchise in general. Or?
I'm an apologist for the franchise in a lot of ways. There's something I like out of all of them. I even like Rob Zombie's films for the most part, though I prefer 2 over 1, and that's a controversial fucking statement. Okay. But I think there's something to enjoy out of all of them, and I think ultimately what it comes down to is I just enjoy the world. It's kind of like putting on a warm blanket, or like Halloween 5 I think is actually one of the worst of the franchise, but I can still sit down and have a good time with it.
I think
is that the one where all the occult stuff started getting more prominent and everything, where it was like his baby and the druidic Celtic rituals, and
they started peppering it in 5. 5's the one that ends with that crazy fucking Terminator cliffhanger at the end where Michael's finally caught and the dude in the black hat comes in and shoots out the police station and he escapes.
So it's the one preceding the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
You're thinking of like Resurrection or whatever.
He's thinking of Halloween 6.
6. I don't remember what it's called, the subtitle, but but I actually marathoned all of them once Jay said that was your pick, Halloween. I watched all the way through Resurrection, which is like 7 or 8 of them.
Which even Resurrection, I have some nice things to say about, but that's beside the point.
and I watched most of the first Rob Zombie one. That's where I had to, that's as of today, and I didn't get a chance to finish it or watch the second one. But I do want to continue through those and the brand new ones. There's like another 3 after that, right? That are
there's Rob Zombie and then his sequel, which I weirdly appreciate just because they were going to make a sequel with or without him. And he pretty much said, well, fuck it. If someone's going to ruin my characters, it's going to be me. So he came in and just, he just made the weirdest fucking film he could ever imagine. Like if you've seen his film, Lords of Salem, he made Lords of Salem as a Halloween film and just got super fucking weird with it. I haven't seen it, but... and it's strange. And that's ultimately the reason I like it. And then they made a new one.
It's the David Gordon Green one, right?
Yes, where they retcon
that's
everything.
Supposed to be they're throwing away everything else and saying only the first one is canon, and it's a sequel to the first.
And they talked about that. They said it's just too hard to write within the world of all of these existing.
Otherwise, you end up with Jason Voorhees in space if you don't reboot. You know, that's where you end up, and, which isn't bad too. I kind of an appreciation for the campy nature of that too. But
yeah, they retconned it all and just said, okay, the first one, only one that exists is the first one. I think they could have done and kept the second one because it makes some of the motivations in the new one stronger, but that's beside the point. I appreciate that they did it.
The second one, isn't that where Hollywood was like, why don't we make Laurie Strode his sister?
Right.
Because she was not his sister. Judith was his sister.
It wasn't really a Hollywood decision. They wanted to make
didn't agree though, right?
No, he didn't. Well, he's the one who wrote it, but he agreed after the fact that was a dumb decision. Carpenter's story behind that is that he had a case of beer and wrote the film in like 24 hours and just sat down and wrote it because they told him it's like because he originally wanted Halloween to be an anthology of different like
and that part 3, the oddball one, which I love that concept that it's Halloween is the theme.
Oh, 100%.
All kinds of things can happen on Halloween. Season of the Witch is amazing.
Yeah, and they told him it's like, hey, it's kind of like do one for us, we'll do one for you. You know, because I think he was trying to get The Fog made at that time, and he wanted Tommy Wallace to do Halloween, do one of the Halloween films. So he's like, hey, just make another of these Michael Myers films, and then we'll let you do whatever you want with the third one. And he's like, well, sure, fuck it, why not? I can write a movie fast. And
as long as you don't hold it too precious. If he was like, no, Michael Myers is, my creation, and he has to be all protective of it and shit. But if he's just like, fuck it, man, I plan on making The Fog and the thing.
That's one thing I appreciate about John Carpenter. He'll tell it like it is. And which is why when he says something good about something, I generally tend to believe him because he doesn't say much good about anything.
Right.
There's actually a great story I love when he produced the remake to The Fog, and someone asked him, it's like, so why don't you direct this? And he goes, because I don't fucking want to.
Nice.
Easy. Like that's just the type of guy he is. So when I tend to take most of what he says as being truthful because he has proven in the past he has no reason to say nice things about anything or anyone. Hell, even the time I met him, he's kind of a jerk to me in a kind of nice way.
Nowadays, being a dick will get you canceled there.
All right.
I mean, we don't have to get into that, but
yeah, Carpenter, his career is interesting too. The Thing, and I recently, maybe a couple years ago, learned The Thing is part of a trilogy. Sort of. You familiar with that?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact title. It's like the Apocalypse trilogy. It's supposed to be The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness, which I think is a really fucking good movie.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it. I haven't seen it. It's based on like Lovecraftian type of stuff, right?
What I should say you should do, you should watch it and then listen to the episode of my podcast where we discuss it.
Oh,
the Shameless Picture Show. Got to get my shit in.
Yeah, you got to get your plugs in early on this show because the buzzer will cut you off.
You'll get buzzed out, right? So good move.
Smart move.
Yeah, that's been on my list, like high on my list for a while. We keep having to watch other things for the show and stuff. They get in front of it often, but yeah,
it's kind of like it happens to me too. It's almost weird complaining about it because it feels like first world problems type of thing. It's like, I gotta watch these movies. Oh yeah, definitely. But it's like ultimately, it's like I'm in a pretty good place where I have an excuse to watch this stuff.
Well, we were in a similar boat to you where we got so busy making films, and I got a kid now and shit, and I was just like, I don't have time to watch anything, or it's G-rated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do have to say, what if we start doing a podcast discussing movies? Then it's kind of like I got to start watching movies again, and we're throwing random picks at each other. It's fun,
I think it's cool.
You can tell your wife it's work.
I appreciate that you two have been making films. I don't know your history super well, but I hosted that panel you were on.
Right, that was a couple years ago.
And we talked a little bit during that, and I think after it a little bit. And I know you guys have been writing together for a while and doing a bunch of cool shit. I think it's admirable that you two still genuinely enjoy film, because I think we all of us who are involved in film know that one guy, or at least a couple guys, actually in my case, who they've been working part of the machine for so long that you don't even know if they even like movies anymore.
Yeah, when you see how the sausage is made, it loses its.
Well, it's funny when you go on general meetings in Hollywood as a writer. We haven't gone as a director or anything yet because we just made our first feature, but we were on that hamster wheel and development hell and shit for a decade, pretty much as screenwriters, taking general meetings and the water bottle tour. But it's funny how it's all about tearing shit down. Pretty much all the icebreakers are like, "Did you see that? What a piece of shit!" You know, everyone in Hollywood dogs everything else, and it's crazy.
And it's hard for me because I'm a pretty positive guy. There's very few things I hate, and part of that is because I do know how the sausage is made. It's like, man, that guy worked hard.
Exactly.
They weren't trying to make a bad movie. They just it didn't work out for them. That's cool.
And occasionally people do try to make bad movies intentionally, and that's awesome, like trauma films and shit.
Yeah, Fatty drives the bus and shit. Right?
It's all subjective, of course, but
but
no, I totally get your point. That like even just making the effort to make a film at all is worth, you know, one or two stars, you know, just
it's that disaster artist thing. Like, it's commendable that this dude went out and did it, whether you think the room was garbage or not, or objectively. Chris and I have gone so far as to say, in like a 5-point scoring system, it's almost like every movie should start with 2 stars.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm a pretty positive guy, and I like to spread positivity because there's enough people out there being negative. And I've often thought, I was like, maybe if I was more negative on my show, I'd get more listens. But that's just not what's fun for me. There's enough people. If you want to find someone who's going to trash a movie, I'm sure it's out there. But instead, let's talk about its merits. We even force each other on our show that there have been occasions where I haven't liked something or he hasn't liked something. We force the other person. It's like, you got to give me 3 things you liked about it.
Oh, speaking of which, our next one that we're doing, just where Chris and I challenge each other and do this little double feature one, his pick for our next one is Santa with Muscles, you motherfucker. It's your fault.
That's how I heard of it. You told me that you had told him of it. Yeah.
It is charming. It is charming of how bad it is.
I can't wait.
So you could tell I appreciate quote unquote bad movies.
Well, and I chose it over the Ebert documentary Life Itself, which
I did like that movie. But no, it's like Santa with Muscles is like a trauma movie if you remove all of everything that makes a trauma movie, if that makes any sense.
Sure, like the gore and
the boobs, you know, everything.
Why did I pick it?
I'm gonna feel shortchanged here.
But it's got Hulk Hogan in spades.
Yeah, I mean,
nice. That's worth
that's worth 3 stars.
yeah, 100%.
Right.
So tell me about the first time you guys saw Halloween. I feel like everyone has seen it. And I feel like most people usually have I feel like most horror fans, anyways, have a story behind it, or like it's not just like I saw that movie at one point.
I don't know. For me, it was so young. It feels like it was in the soup of the slasher soup. Like, we went through, man, probably age 5, I was watching shit like this. 5, 6, 7, at least 6 to 8. I know, because we moved to the Philippines when I was 9. And at least for 2 or 3 years before that, we were watching whatever the hell when we got the free month of HBO or free month of promotional Showtime, because we were broke as shit living in the hood, you know. But anytime we got that, we were pretty unsupervised, single mom out working and dating. You know, our grandmother was super permissive, letting us watch pretty much anything. So I know I saw it probably at 5 or 6, but it was in there with the multiple Friday the 13th movies and Freddy Krueger and everything else. So I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I remember watching it as a kid. Mike Myers was definitely he was on the Mount Rushmore of slasher movies for us at that age and shit even. But part 3 was our favorite even then, the Season of the Witch. I don't know why. Maybe just because it had the kid angle.
It had Tom Atkins.
That's it. That's what it was.
3 more days till Halloween.
Yeah, the song, Halloween, the jingle,
Silver Shamrock.
What I love about
snake comes out the kid's head. She's like, what the fuck?
I think it was just so weird.
Yeah, I loved how just out there it was.
What I absolutely love about Halloween, though, because you mentioned having seen it like during, you know, in the height of the slasher film, and you know, for me, slasher films are just there's very few bad slasher films in my mind, because they're all fun.
They strike a chord for sure.
Yeah, what I love about, you know, I'll go through a period of watching a bunch of them. It's my eventual goal to see all of them. Like a friend of mine, he has a blog where he is watching every single.
Well, and there's so many one-off random ones.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and he's watching every single He's got a master list of every slasher film from its golden era, and he's watching through every single one of them in order and writing about them. And I had him on my podcast, and we were talking about it. And what I think is interesting is I'll watch all these slasher films, some good, some bad, whatever. And you go back to Halloween, and it still feels like a breath of fresh air amongst the genre. And considering how early it came, you'd think that okay, someone made this film early on, right when the slasher boom began. You'd think someone would be able to top it or perfect it, and in some ways, people did, whether it be body count or gore or music or whatever. But it's a classy film, and the way it's constructed, it's put together very fucking well. I actually had a chance to talk to Tommy Lee Wallace one time, and I said, "What was it like cutting that film together?" And he's like, "I didn't have to do anything."
Yeah,
he's like, John had it all together. I just had to
put it in order.
Takes.
Yeah, it's just a lot, you know.
The sequence of scenes, yeah.
The Fog, he said, was a nightmare to cut together, but Halloween was easy. It was like it was like lyrical. It was like cutting music.
Nice. I can see that for sure.
When I was a kid, I found myself more enamored with Jason for some reason. Jason Voorhees, I was like drawing him and shit, the mask and shit like that.
He's easier to draw, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
He had those more inventive kills.
Yeah,
it was more like a game or something. You know, can he one up himself with a kill this time? You know.
Not that it's a competition or anything, but I just remember when I think back to that period of watching, you know, I kind of saw them as like counterparts, and I don't have specific memories of watching it the first time, but for most films, I rarely remember the first time I watched them. I remember the film, you know, of course, but like the actual where I was, and you know,
especially ones you've seen several times. It's like kind of just
true. It all starts to blur together. And that was really young too, as Jay said. You know, this is when I'm 4 years older than him, and this is like before either of us was 10 years old, you know, in that area. We were watching movies like this.
You had said that you were watching through all of them. So now as an adult, being more well-versed in the world of film and filmmaking, what's your perspective on watching them now? It doesn't have to be the first one, but like just in general, what's your perspective? How do you feel about them now, having revisited them?
They're definitely entertaining. The first one, I agree. It has a certain character to it that, you know, subsequent ones don't. In terms
class was a good word. It's kind of classy, you know.
I remember even when I was young, I think number 2 stood out a lot for me. Just that was around when I really started to become aware of it. Was when 2 and you know, the original was like 78, right?
Yep,
something like that. And part 2 was like a couple years later. I think
80 was part 2.
Okay. I was born in 73. I think maybe the first one I didn't even quite catch, you know, I might have even seen the second one first, because I remember it a lot more like the Mr. Sandman song, you know, Mr. Sandman, like that. I even having not seen it for at least a decade or more, I was associating that with the first one and stuff. For part 2 really was what like was entrenched in my mind from childhood. The hospital, you know, the fact that he was when he got burned up at the end, the Loomis lighting the match, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, fuck
yeah. For some reason, yeah, it is. Yeah, so I really like 2 a lot, and then as they progress, they seem to slip a bit more and more in terms of my appreciation for them. But I still like them all too.
Yeah. It's a pretty consistent franchise. All things considered.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a pretty consistent franchise.
And when it comes to the, you know, in the 5th and 6th installments, they started adding like the druidic legendary and all that stuff. But I in my research before this, I found, and I'm sure you guys know, there was a novelization of the original one that came out right around the same time, and it had all that in it. It was like, you know, the Michael Myers, his story was rooted in, you know, not prehistoric, maybe I guess slightly in Celtic times, where there was a curse, and you know, one of the this kid.
So that was before the second movie ever even came out. Or there was a novelization?
So.
That's crazy.
Pretty sure it was before this. Yeah, so it was already like from the start. That was kind of what they were doing with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, it's also funny with those novels based on the films, because like what they'll do is
they have to take it somewhere.
Yeah, they'll give the writer like a copy of the script and pretty much tell them like, well, do whatever the fuck you want, essentially, and they'll just get weird with it. And
I always thought that'd be a sweet career, dude. Just being a novelist of movie novelizations, because those things, again, like you said, it's like you get to just take it wherever, man.
A novel is more like a TV show and less like Jay and I say this all the time. A movie is more like a short story. you know, it's pretty concise in terms of how far you really take it. Whereas a novel, you know, you spend hours and hours and hours reading a novel, whereas a movie you watch in an hour and a half or whatever, you know.
The exception is like an Elmore Leonard novel or something you can usually suck
this
down.
Is generally
it's
speaking.
a caper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
they're
and some movies are epic and 4 hours long and shit, you know. So
yeah, like I'm reading Glitz right now, and it's speeding by. Because you mentioned Elmore Leonard.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
One of the things about this whole franchise too is the music. It's so iconic, and
huge.
All three of the big three of the '80s, the franchises, all have great music. But this, it's so simple. I mean, Jason's got the shit, which is awesome, but it's not like the theme and shit. It's not when the credits roll.
It doesn't hit this rarefied air. This theme song.
And it's funny, like Harry Manfredini, he if we were to put them down and listen to both the Halloween soundtrack and Harry Manfredini soundtrack for Friday the 13th, Harry Manfredini's soundtrack is probably significantly better. It's more nuanced. There's a lot more going on with it.
The overall score.
It's just not nearly as iconic.
Yeah, it's just the catchiness. It's so.
And I love that Carpenter wrote it. You know, the do-it-yourself auteur filmmaker in me loves that. You know, the actual director and creator.
Which is why it's never going to be as good as the actual composer. You know, but.
It's so elementary though. It's beautiful. Like,
and for the do-it-yourselfers out there, it's like you don't need to get crazy. I mean, we just had an amazing composer help with Jack, but Antonio Tranquilino, this dude's dope. But at the same time, initially we were going to do it ourselves, and Chris obviously is a musician. You know, it's like just everything yourself.
You don't even have to be a musician. Like when I was in film school, I made a documentary about my dad dealing with cancer, and you know, I was like a sophomore. So especially when you're a sophomore, you don't have any connections to anyone. And it was around this time, I think someone had got a cease and desist from some record company. So they were really striking down on like using music. And I had a guitar and I could barely play, but I put something together and recorded it myself off with the onboard mics on the camera I was shooting. And I used that. Like
it's more of a tonal thing anyway, as long as it fits the tone and it's not intrusively bad or obnoxious or something, it's fine.
Yeah, like, you know, you can do a lot of a couple strings. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you could put a couple things together that sound like something.
Dude, I just posted a video Chris sent me, brushy one string. This is Jamaican guy, right? He's on one of the islands. I think it's Jamaican. But he's this dude who plays one string and he's fucking amazing.
I've seen those, Yeah.
So
and then there's like the Eyes Wide Shut soundtrack, I think was like this, where it's just once in a while there'd just be this piano strike, just a ting.
And it carries.
Things like that are super cool. Like
American Beauty, really sparse but beautiful.
I think No Country for Old Men has barely any score. And like another good one, like we just talked about Coal Miner's Daughter on my podcast.
Great movie.
And
Tommy Lee Jones.
They don't have a true like composer on there. Like they have a guy credited, but what they did is they just got a bunch of country musicians in the studio who were just doing variations of the Coal Miner's Daughter medley from the song.
That's cool.
Amazing fucking movie, by the way.
They just used that.
It is. Yeah.
I was just looking at it in my stacks the other day, and you had posted something I think on Facebook about Coal Miner's Daughter recently. I'm just like,
it was our first episode back from this season of the podcast.
Well, talk to me about that too. Let's talk about the podcast for a minute.
Yeah, seasons. What do you want to talk about? Yeah, so we do seasons because I get burnt out. I do. So we started off 5 years ago, and my co-host lives in Maryland. He runs a public access television station in Maryland, and
that's great. Public access is still a thing because that was shit in the 90s.
The internet, I know, it's like amazing it exists still.
What we did is we recorded a couple episodes ahead of time because I had just gotten married around that time and I was going on my honeymoon. So we recorded a bunch of episodes ahead of time and we're editing them together. And unfortunately, I shot myself in the foot by putting too much fucking work into my episodes where, I go and I cut in the audio from the trailer. I'll cut in clips. I'll cut in other little things. And essentially I just made the editing process the nightmare for myself.
Yeah, that's one reason Jay and I keep ours just a conversation.
That was part of the 60-minute thing too. Unedited.
Having to go back and edit.
Incredibly smart. I was just trying to do something to set myself apart because when I first started, I didn't know if our show would be any good. So I was like, well, let's put some filler in here. Filler sells. And it's because I thought even if our podcast sucks, it'll sound good. But now I've been doing it for so long, it's kind of hard not to do it. Though I've found some ways to do it. But really what it came down to is we had a release schedule of every other week. So I just couldn't do a weekly thing. And there would be some weeks where if our schedules didn't line up, we would be recording 3 days before it goes out, and I'd have to try to rush through and edit while working and everything. We'd get down to we'd do our Christmas episode, and then we were both just so burnt out we needed a couple months off. So we just started making them seasons. So we take a couple months off, and then we come back with a new season. It just kind of gives us an excuse to take a break.
That's interesting, but yeah, I can see the editing. I'd be in the same headspace, man. Like we even approach filmmaking the way we did this podcast. What's the minimal, not effort, not because we're lazy. It's just that work smarter, not harder type shit, you know?
Yeah. And I ultimately like editing. It can be.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Editing podcasts less fun.
Oh yeah, right. Editing film is fun. Yeah.
It's not the language of cinema and shit.
And editing podcast isn't too bad either, especially too because it's fun because if
you're cutting away to stuff and you have inserts and
if you're cutting away to stuff, it's also fun for me too because sometimes you'll have I like tightening the conversation sometimes because sometimes it's not always so flowy like this is. Sometimes you'll have spots where things just aren't. There's a lot of empty air, and I also like retuning jokes because sometimes a joke just doesn't work listening back on, and I can retune it and make things work. So there is a nuance to it, and fuck yeah, dude.
Lucas, man.
Editing is
we'll add the tears in post.
You know what the.
We'll add the punchline in post as long as that gets set up.
Any editing is cheating, man. Technically. Let's use film for an example. The old timers back in the 20s used to think that if you couldn't, anytime you had to cut the camera, it shows how little you know what you're doing.
Because you didn't place it strategically. You didn't play your actors. You didn't.
So they thought a cut as being less than. They'd be watching your film if they saw a cut.
I can appreciate that.
This jackoff doesn't know what he's doing.
Spielberg, you could argue, is the same way. It's very economically placed camera. I can start in one frame with a minimal movement that
it feels like
of course.
It feels like he's cutting even when he's just moving the camera.
Exactly.
And actually, that's one thing that
Haneke does that a lot.
Yeah, Carpenter, to a lesser extent, does it in this film as well.
Yeah. Agreed.
He does cut around a little bit more, but he knows the benefit of building tension. Like I still think a masterclass of a scene is that scene where Lori leaves the house and she's walking across the street
when she knows something's going on, but
is not sure. There is so much dread and tension in that scene because we know more than she does. They should be fucking teaching that scene in film schools.
It's dramatic irony, sort of that tension. Yeah. I found it funny because I just watched the Friday the 13th as well, marathon them. There's actually a documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you know, a 7-hour-long documentary on the Friday the 13th.
I have it. Actually, I have it on Blu-ray.
Okay.
Yes.
So I watched that concurrently. So I'd watch the documentary, then go watch the movie, or vice versa. But this is just to say, when you mentioned that scene, it reminded me, I thought it was funny watching both of them again, that Jason Voorhees and Mike Myers drove. Like these lurching, lurching kind of, like Terminator things, and then but they're fucking.
Well, Mike Myers in this one, Loomis even says one of you must have taught him to drive here because he was fucking 6 years old when he came into the.
Oh no, I love that they drew attention to it because most movies would just be like, they would suspend your disbelief.
Exactly,
but he doesn't know how to drive. Well, he did a good job last night.
It'd be awesome if there was just all these. One of the first clues that he was back there, and what was the name of the town? Fucking
Haddonfield.
Haddonfield. There's just like mailboxes and garbage cans on the street and shit, dented up. Like he's just been careening around, hitting shit.
There's a car wrapped around a tree somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Just
so hey, you want to test your knowledge? We have a quiz.
There's a Halloween
franchise. Okay. You guys, we could do it together. I actually did it earlier, but so I can tell you which ones I got wrong. But
put me on the spot.
I'll share my screen.
We could all throw in answers.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to share my screen.
This isn't to say you're the biggest fan of Halloween in the world. It's to say it's your favorite movie.
I think most of these you'll know. There might be a couple that are just, like how much did it cost to make? It's multiple choice. So how much did the 1978 Halloween movie cost to make? 1.2 million.
Yeah, I think it was the first one.
That's
So
a
that's
million.
1.2
1.2
million.
million.
Oh no, then never mind. No, it's 500,000. 500,000.
Half a million, 300,000, or
I'm gonna
100,000.
pick 300.
I'm gonna go 5.
Okay. That's what I picked as well. I love it. Oh, it didn't. I got to share my sound, probably, don't I? Yeah.
The
Okay, so
buzzes
you'll hear the
us.
buzzers. It was 300,000.
Oh, shit.
Gotcha. Okay.
What was the original title of Halloween?
The Babysitter Murders.
Oh
Yes.
shit.
Oh, I
Is it?
should have let Jay. Yes.
Yeah, let me see the answers here for a second.
Okay, yeah. It was Michael's Revenge, The Masked Murderer, All Hallows Eve, or The Babysitter Murders. I guessed that right, too, because I did read that originally that was the whole concept. Before Mike Myers, anything, it was, let's make a movie about this guy going around killing babysitters, which is pretty genius for the
Yeah, I love
70s.
that.
And
But
shit,
then
you know what I mean?
at the time, they realized that, oh shit, no one's ever made a movie called Halloween. Let's use it.
That's interesting that it says
that's
the Babysitter Murders. It was supposed to take place over several days, but they changed the script to have everything happen on the same day to reduce locations, costume changes, etc., and keep the budget down. See, that's the kind of smart shit you do to lower the budget, you know, contract time as much as you can.
who was not approached to play Dr. Sam Loomis.
Vincent Price.
Peter Cushing, Donald Pleasance. Is it Pleasance or Pleasance?
I've always heard it pronounced Pleasance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like
Christopher Lee. So Vincent Price is your guess. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
That was mine as well.
Fuck at that point, right?
And I think it's like the obvious horror, like, you know, guy, like that. Like it's so obvious that that's why they chose it to throw you.
Cushing and Christopher Lee both turned it down because of the pay. Pleasance received 20 grand for 5 days at work.
Oh, shit, I'll do that.
Only reason Donald Pleasance did it though is because his daughter liked the music and Escape from New York,
Interesting.
and because she was like, "Oh, I saw his movie. I like the music," and he's like, "Fine, I can't do it, Donald Pleasance."
He made Escape from New York before this?
Sorry, no, Assault in Precinct 13. My mistake.
Oh, Assault and Precinct. All right.
Yeah.
Pleasance was great though. He was just perfect for it. I'm so glad.
I remember even as a kid that Terror in the Aisles shit. I remember him factoring in that.
Yes,
pretty
yes,
well.
yeah.
Didn't he
You
narrate
familiar
it or
with
something?
that? Terror in the
He
Aisles.
narrated it.
I think so.
He did. He was like the host of it. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it.
It's so hard to find. It's not streaming anywhere.
If you can find a Blu-ray copy, then a non-Scream Factory Blu-ray copy of Halloween 2, it's on there.
Oh shit.
Oh really?
Dude, I'm gonna eBay that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Scream Factory.
And actually, Scream Factory did a release of Terror in the Aisles.
Nice.
Really? All right, let's find that, dude.
That was iconic for me too. Yeah, like
That was huge for us.
Yes.
That's probably why it feels like a soup though, too. Because I remember watching that several times.
Yes,
So there's like The Brood. I thought I'd seen The Brood, but it was from that or some shit. You know, it's like it tricked me into thinking I'd seen movies that were actually a gap.
Trilogy of Terror, the doll, the African doll.
Yep.
Who inspired the character of Michael Myers? A psychiatric patient, Alfred Hitchcock, Carpenter's son, or Ron Howard?
A psychiatric patient.
Clint Howard.
I had read this too prior to taking this quiz. Because we were doing this, I read a lot of the background, so I knew a lot of these. But how many different people are believed to have portrayed Michael? This one actually I got wrong.
So it's at least 3. Interesting.
Like,
Yeah.
I know. I was
There's
like,
kid Michael.
There's a kid. Nick
oh, that's a
Castle,
good point. I didn't consider that.
There's a kid. Nick Castle played him through a good portion of the film. They also had the other guy. They had when they did the mask reveal. That was a different guy.
Yeah, when I rewatched it just now, I had forgotten that they had taken his mask off because that's always a question every time you watch either Friday the 13th or Halloween. You're like, are you going to see his face in this one or not? You know,
Tommy Lee Wallace wore the mask when they had to break down the closet door because he's the one who rigged that door up, so he knew where to hit it.
Damn. Okay, see,
What are we at? 5? Is that 5?
And I don't know if this counts or not, but I'm going to go 5. But I don't know if this counts or not. But the producer, Deborah Hill, she played Michael's hands in the beginning of the film.
That's right. I saw something about that, and they were. Oh no, that was something. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Friday the 13th. It was the opposite. It was a guy.
Yeah,
a guy's hands in place of a woman's hands.
She was doing the Steadicam operating because she was short enough.
As when he's a kid, the POV shots of the kid.
Yeah, so I'd say 5. I'd say 5.
Okay, Jay, you going with that?
I trust it. I phoned a friend on this one. And,
shit!
You want to try
even
again?
though I got it wrong, I proved I know a lot of fucking people.
Oh yeah, that was more than I knew about that subject. So
7, then I guess.
That blew my mind. Yeah,
so there's probably just a couple extra stand-ins and shit while dude's taking a shit or something, you know.
And when they did remove the mask and they showed, his face, it was kind of interesting. It was a very interesting choice. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of a handsome 20.
I wonder how many chicks were like, dude. I'd fuck him.
But I always think funny when he removes the mask and he comes back into the light and he puts it back on. He always looks like, you guys remember Men in Black? Like the dude who's like,
yes, Edgar, dude.
Film Who Wanted Sugar. That's who I always think of. Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio. It looks like Vincent D'Onofrio in that film. I don't know. He just looks very strange to me.
We're doing an alien SmackDown.
It isn't quite fitting right.
We're doing like this tournament of all aliens for movies and shit, and he was one of my picks in there. Just Vincent D'Onofrio.
Okay, so we got like the stunt man when he fell out the window, stuff like that. That's
dog trainer.
What
when he
mask
killed that dog was freaky. Did they drug that dog or what, dude? How'd that dog go limp? That's creepy.
I'm wondering if they shot it in slow motion and in reverse, because the dog's legs drop. So if you think about it, if it would be, they shoot it in slow motion, have the dog tries to lift its legs up, and then I wonder if they do it in reverse. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
That was exactly the kind of shit they would think of back in the day. Shooting in reverse.
I love the ingenuity it took.
Yeah.
So we all know this one. What mask did Michael wear, Captain Kirk?
Well,
he wore a clown one at one point.
Yeah, that's a trick question.
That's a trick question. Yeah, that should be you should be given credit if you chose a clown.
Yeah,
of course, the iconic one is Captain Kirk.
But isn't that crazy though? As a kid, until someone told me that later, I was like, "That's William Shatner."
What time signature is the Halloween theme written in? 5/4.
You got it.
Oh shit! You musicians know that?
Well, I don't know that. The only reason
I don't know anything about time signatures.
John Carpenter he tells the story that he got the time signature from his dad because his dad used to play the bongos. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And he used to just play the Halloween theme on the bongos all the time, and so he just took it to piano.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
5 beats per measure, quarter notes.
Man, another way having a dad actually helps.
All right. By 2018, how many Halloween films have been made?
2018. Well, that would be all of them.
We need Jeopardy music.
9? Fuck my life.
It's got to be 11 then, right?
Must be 11. Yeah, I think I got this wrong too.
I was trying to count quickly in my head.
It's a pretty healthy franchise, dude. 11 fucking movies.
That's crazy. Why can't Michael be killed? An ancient druid curse. We already know that.
Yeah. He's just lucky.
He's just lucky.
He's just a lucky god.
And technically, that's not okay. I guess this is a
He's
Halloween.
Lucky. He has a druid curse.
This is a Halloween quiz, and then they throw one in that's about the franchise. That's also a trick question.
True.
What is the name of the reality TV show? I know this one because I just watched it. In Halloween Resurrection, that invites guests. Look at Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks are the hosts.
Dangertainment.
Busta Rhymes.
Dangertainment, he says.
That's it.
Oh yeah, Busta Rhymes wasn't.
Busta Rhymes doing kung fu and shit on Mike Myers at the end. It's ridiculous.
I need my kid to go back to school. Damn it. I don't.
What is the killer called in? What is the killer called in the scripts and credits for Halloween? I love this. I was going to bring this up.
I remember seeing that, which is funny though, because it was Michael Myers.
He is a named character, but I wonder if they just thought making him a character was
cool, though.
Wrong.
Well, here they say something right here. Yeah. Carpenter's description of the character is he wasn't human and he wasn't supernatural. He was somewhere in between. He was the shape. He could be anywhere at night. He could be in the shadows. He'd watch you. And even though he moved like a human being, there was something about him different, which I'm glad that they addressed, because that classic thing of the guy who just slowly stalks but somehow catches up to you, and he was behind the bush and now he's gone and shit. It's like good to throw some explanation at that.
Yeah, agreed.
Even if it's not on screen.
How long did it take John Carpenter and Deborah Hill to write the screenplay for the original Halloween?
I feel like it was only 10 days, but I could be wrong.
I bet it was.
But that was my guess too. It's correct. But I didn't know. It was just a guess. Michael Myers is the antagonist.
Real quick, I will say Deborah Hill does not get nearly enough credit for everything she's done.
Yeah, you were just talking about her being a producer, Steadicam operator, co-writer.
She wrote all the teenage girls' dialogue in this film.
Interesting. Makes it genuine,
And because it's also authentic. She knows because she was a babysitter, and she's a big reason why John Carpenter got any of his films made. And it's unfortunate they had a falling out because John Carpenter, started cheating on her with Adrienne Barbeau, but she does not get the credit she deserves. Just saying.
Do you know if she's gone on, if she did any shit on her own after that, or?
Oh, I think she definitely did. Let me I can let
I
you
have
know.
to check that out because I'd be curious to see. Because it sounds like
What
she's almost pulling the strings and shit to a degree. Because the girl's dialogue and everything's half the movie, if not the bulk
she
of
produced Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, Halloween 2, and Halloween 3. But she also then produced The Dead Zone, Clue,
Dead Zone is great.
Adventures in Babysitting,
Clue,
Heartbreak Hotel. I'm skipping around a little bit. The Lottery, The Fisher King.
Dude.
Oh, Fisher King is amazing. It's one of our top favorite movies.
Top 5 movies ever.
Yeah.
What? Deborah Hill. We got to do an episode about her, dude.
Yeah.
Gangster.
Yeah. So
Michael Viers is the antagonist in all of the we know this one. Halloween movies, except which one? Season of the Witch. Who wrote and directed the Halloween remake in 2007?
Zombie, right?
Yeah, Zombie.
He writes his own scripts.
I saw the first Rob Zombie Halloween part of it like years ago, but never finished it. I just like last night started watching it again for the second time, and I had a better appreciation for it the second time.
Yeah.
I kind of dug what he was doing with it. The first time I kind of was like, I felt like they didn't need to explain his childhood and what led to it. Was kind of cooler that he was the shape, that he was just this like unexplained, like just evil that like Loomis described him and stuff. But this time I don't know that that didn't bother me as much. And I mean, some of the stuff in it, like the killings and everything in it, are seemingly to me more realistic than like a lot of these older slasher movies. Like one stabbed at the stomach and the person just is dead instantly, and it's like that's not how people go.
The film's also got phenomenal cinematography too.
Yeah. No, I really was enjoying it this time, so I haven't finished it yet, but
dope.
Yeah, it was cool. Who did Laurie kill at the end of Halloween H2O 20 years later? Yeah, that's funny.
A paramedic.
That's right.
Really?
But they only established that in the next movie.
The next movie,
it was as if she killed him, but then no.
Which was a great twist. It was a great twist.
Do you think it would have a twist that would have been better shown at the end of the movie?
Well, I don't know if they knew they were going to make another one.
I don't think they did.
Right. I'm just saying it seems like something they
wiggle
thought
your way
of.
out of that bag.
How do we make another one?
Because like
she didn't really kill him.
Yeah, because like I think they wanted this to be the final confrontation between the two, but every time they say that, there's never they always want to make more.
It's like
Ozzy
Osbourne
retiring for the sequel. I know people do get fatigued by that. Like, how are they going to do it this time that he didn't?
Well, they do that plenty in these. Like, I believe the next with Resurrection, they had his eyes shoot open at the end. I think it was Resurrection, right? Which is funny because then they didn't continue this through line. So the one that they acted as if they were going to end it, they didn't, and then the very next one where it did end, that that thread actually did leave it.
H2O is a pretty solid flick too. It's actually directed by Steve Miner, who did a couple of the Friday the 13th films.
She decapitates him. That sounds pretty gnar.
It's cool.
Yeah, that end sequence is.
It's a great if you would have seen that in the theater, it's a great crowd pleasing moment. The audience,
like when the face to face in the window and the door.
It's fucking dope. Yeah,
dude, we should do like a Soderbergh style re-edit where we edit the paramedic shit to the end of this.
Yes,
and you see that he punked her and got away at the end.
According to Deborah Hill, co-writer of the original Halloween, the idea behind the film was that you couldn't kill what?
Evil.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Superstition.
Plus they say it like 47 times in the film.
Right, exactly.
That 6-year-old boy.
This one surprised me rewatching it. Who played Tommy Doyle in Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers?
Paul Rudd.
Yep. Really?
Oh yeah.
Paul Rudd rules, dude. His second role ever.
He was interesting in it too, because he's known to be this kind of like boyish almost, or just like flamboyant, not flamboyant, but just kind of
playful.
Out there. Yeah, accessible type. But in this, he was actually kind of a weirdo, which was cool.
So he's a pretty underrated dramatic actor, but
he makes some weird choices in this film, but I can see what he's doing. He's a young actor thinking he's making good choices, and that makes it more interesting. Like I love watching movies with people who are like
it's like Crispin Glover is the king of that kind of shit.
Like I love watching movies with bad acting, not because like I think the acting's bad, because it's like I love when people are trained in acting who aren't very good. It's like because you guys know what goes into making a performance, and they are trying to make a good performance. They're just not very good actors. So I just love.
Speaking of which, Sherry Moon Zombie. I'm just kidding. That's the next question. She's pretty nice, easy on the eyes, but In Rob Zombie's remakes, what character? Actually, I'll take that back because she actually did. I even was thinking when I watched, I was just making a joke, but she actually thought her acting was pretty good.
She's pretty good in that movie. Yeah.
Well, it just gave
Michael's
away the
mom.
answer, but it's the mom.
Yeah.
Halloween 2018 is a direct sequel to which Halloween film?
Halloween
I think we just-
1978.
Yeah.
Yes. I think this is no. There's one more page.
Oh shit.
Who arranged for Michael's escape in Halloween 2018?
Dr. Sartain.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Wants to study him in the wild.
What'd you think of that latest Halloween movie?
For the most part, I liked it. I had some issues with it, but nothing that was like going to ruin my enjoyment of it. The climax of the film, like once we got to like Laurie's weird death house, I was fucking fully in, and
I haven't seen it, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I don't want to fuck it. I don't want to do any more
No,
spoilers.
that's just enough.
There's a moment near the end that me and my wife both like nearly got out of our seat and cheered at.
Nice.
Are you just drinking
And that's
wine?
the David Gordon Green ones, right?
I am.
Yeah,
Jay and I were always fans of his, but
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say is
Halloween. I was like, whoa, that's
It's probably
crazy.
like my 8th favorite David Gordon Green movie or something.
Yeah,
'cause I
David
fucking
Gordon
love
Green,
it.
written by Danny McBride. Like Kenny
Yes.
fucking Powers wrote
Oh,
that
I didn't
movie.
know he wrote it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Right, hilarious.
Danny McBride's the shit.
Okay, Eastbound and Down is legend, man.
It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
It's excellent. What job does Laurie Strode have in Halloween H2O? Okay.
Headmistress.
Yes.
That's an excuse to have a bunch of
Exactly.
hot young chicks in skirts
if I
running
was her,
around.
she should have taken some job that keeps her like in Antarctica or some shit, not around a bunch of college kids. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just in case.
How many people can I put in danger? Innocent
Right,
young
exactly.
people.
That's pretty irresponsible. Which Halloween film had the lowest grossing box office revenue of the franchise?
I want to say it was. This one's difficult because I want to say
Yeah, I
it's
think I was
3,
wrong.
but I feel like it's actually no. I think it's 3. I
gonna
feel like
say 5.
Resurrection did well, all things considered.
I feel
Okay,
5.
so 3 is
Oh
wrong.
fuck. Okay.
5 is correct.
Oh, okay.
Shit. I feel like just that's when fatigue would kick in.
Well, because
Yeah.
only reason
that's
I
why
thought
I picked Resurrection for the
only
same
reason I thought 3 is because they made 3 and it did so poorly that it took them a long time.
Yeah,
to
then
make
they
another
brought
film.
Myers back.
Yeah,
right?
and they
Like, so
didn't
that
bring
would
him
make
back
sense.
until like maybe the late 80s, early 90s. So it was definitely more than a couple years.
Yeah, and I mean even the decision of returning to the form, of using Mike Myers, it would make sense to think Halloween 3 didn't do well, so therefore, that's what people want. They
5
want
is
Mike
actually
Myers.
surprising because like then they went on to make 6 not too long after. So it's like
Yeah, and it
You know what would
was
be
like continuing the story.
You know what would be an interesting show to do? Like another little tournament style thing. How many Nightmare on Elm Streets did they make? Do you know?
nah,
Not nearly as many, right?
Probably
8 or
like
9.
5 or 6, maybe.
No,
Well, then-
there's I think
They
there's
made the
8,
remake. And
there's
shit.
8 if you're including there's 9 if you're
versus-
including Freddy vs. Jason and the remake, I believe.
All right, no remakes, just the original trilogies.
Then I think there's 7.
So it would be
Wow,
interesting to
that
say,
many, huh?
out of these 3 franchises, which one had the best first movie? Which one had the best second movie? Which one had the best third
I would love
movie?
to see that. Yeah, we should check that out.
That'd be fun,
Oh, you
dude.
mean like in subjectively the best, not box
Yeah, like we
office.
watch them on and talk about them.
Yeah.
I would
like
probably
that.
I honestly it pains me to say, but I'd probably have to pick Nightmare on Elm Street.
Out of the 3 of the
Best
first ones.
of the first
Overall.
I think it's the best of those 3 films.
Yeah,
Like,
it
just-
came
Oh, yeah.
later, I think, right? It was
Yeah,
the latest
yeah.
of the 3.
You're saying the first installment was
Of
the
each
best?
one.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
of each
like
one,
I think,
yeah.
like if I had to choose the original Halloween, the original Friday the 13th, and the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I think
Yeah, I would
the
agree.
original Nightmare on Elm Street is the best made film.
Yeah.
And I think it would be one of the greatest horror films of all time if it had no sequels.
Yeah, that's dead on. Agreed.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
surprised how much I enjoyed Freddy versus Jason. I just saw that for the
It's
first
so
time. as
it's
part of my-
just dumb but fun. It's
Yeah,
that's,
it
but
was
that's what
fun.
you want from that movie.
Especially having marathon through all the Friday the 13th up to that point. Yeah, I was ready for that. You know what I mean?
What do we
It-
got to do to combine the 3 of these motherfuckers in one?
No
movie?
shit. I mean, the 2 of them were actually, they both, was it New Line Cinema, I think, that
Yeah.
acquired both of them, and that's why they could do it. And they even ended one of the previous or even there was a couple previous before that, Friday the 13th with it was Jason Goes to Hell, I think, the end.
That new line,
the claw, Kruger's claw came down and pulled him into the earth.
That New Line deal taught me some important piece of information, because I wrote a slasher film a couple of years ago that I was trying to get made, and there was a period of time where I had some potential investors interested, and we got to the point of drafting contracts and learning everything I have from both New Line Cinema and Kevin Smith. I wrote in my contract that I owned the rights to the slasher character in it, because like, for example, like the New Line owned Jason, but they didn't own the name Friday the 13th. Same thing with Kevin Smith. He owns Jay and Silent Bob, but he didn't own Clerks. So like, I learned
why it was Jason Goes to Hell and shit.
Yes, I learned to keep the character. Fuck the title. Keep the character.
Totally true. Totally. Good point. 2 more to go. I don't know where we are buzzer wise, but I think it's getting close.
Yeah.
In how many movies does Jamie Lee Curtis play Laurie Strode?
4.
4? Yeah, I think 4, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What musician was not involved in a Halloween movie? Rob Zombie, LL Cool J.
Technically, I'm actually wrong. That should be 5, because she plays. Technically, she shows up in Resurrection for one
at the
scene,
very beginning, right?
That should be 5.
Shit. This is wrong, motherfuckers.
I was wrong too, because I forgot about the new one. So I was thinking 4, thinking about the original.
Oh, and you read it and said, "Oh shit."
Yeah,
that's funny.
And
I'm gonna say Marilyn Manson, because I know Busta Rhymes and LL Cool J, I think, were both in one.
Yeah,
they were stars in them. Yes.
LL Cool J's character
was the security guy. Yeah, in H2O.
He's a security guy who wants to write romantic novels.
Right.
And through the entire film, he's like calling his wife,
on the phone with his wife,
and reading them out to her, and she like is giving him shit for it, and he's like, "Baby, this is gonna sell." It's
the same line I used on you.
He's so good in that movie.
It worked on you. And by the end, at the end, you think he got spoiler alert, you think he got killed, but then it turns out he survived it. And at the very end, he's on the phone with his wife. He's like, "I want to write a thriller." Nice. That's my next shit. She's like, romantic thriller, I think it was.
He's so good in that movie. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Here it says Marilyn Manson has not been attached to any Halloween franchise project.
Yes.
Well, now that he's been canceled, ever. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's gone too.
He was part of the Creep Show, the new Creep Show, and something else. Oh, American Gods, and he's been canceled from both of those.
He's not. He wasn't a bad actor.
Manson.
Yeah.
He was also in something Jay and I just reviewed, Party Monster. He was a side character in it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh man,
you gotta
talk about horror movies.
Check it
I've heard of it. I remember it coming out. It just never.
It's so much different than I thought it would be. It is do-it-yourself shit. It's almost just like made on a camcorder. It's crazy, dude.
That's dope.
So lo-fi, blew my mind.
So I think our timer's probably ending. What else you guys want to talk about Halloween?
I got a bunch of notes actually that I haven't gotten through, but they're all like super detail level things.
Well, I guess let's
here's
talk
one.
about
Does Mike Myers need to eat and shit? Does he like take shits and stuff?
He does
like,
eat. He does eat. That's why he killed the dog.
He ate that dog.
Okay, so that's hilarious.
It's probably a skunk or something. Yeah.
So that means he needs to go shit somewhere, like like he has to take a break and go fight, like either just shit in the bushes or.
Yeah, I imagine he's just leaving. It's like he's like a horse. I imagine he's just shitting as he's walking.
Right, I was thinking that too, maybe, but then that makes it hard to sneak up on.
It's just shitting dog all over the streets of this nice suburb.
I was thinking about that with Jason Voorhees, like by the 5th movie, I was like, "There's no way this motherfucker's surprising people, man. He's got to reek to fucking high heaven, fucking been under Crystal Lake."
He's in your closet. You walk in like
exactly. I guess he ain't surprising nobody.
No. How many teenage chicks died in here?
See.
What else you were starting to say something too there, right?
No, I was just actually curious. Like, if you got, since we're running out of time, if you had to, like, I already mentioned what my favorite scene is in the film. Do you have a favorite scene, favorite moment, favorite something? Mine's Laurie crossing the street, because I just think it's pure cinema. But you guys have anything?
That is great.
I can't think of a specific scene.
Where'd you go? I lost. Oh, never mind.
That was the.
Gotcha.
Oh,
I got you.
I just stopped sharing my screen. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's see if I had any other notes.
Well, he was saying a favorite scene. I'm trying to think on.
Yeah,
or even just a favorite moment. You know, like another one I just think is funny.
I like when the bully kid runs into Michael Myers I just picture that kid who's just bullying the kid when they squash his pumpkin and shit, and he runs out, and just runs right into this creep. And I was like, was he wearing the mask yet at that point? Because we didn't see his face or anything. And I just was.
Yeah, I don't think he was.
I will say, of all the Halloween movies, I think the moment that scared me the most as a kid was actually in part 3. And it was when that dude ripped the other guy's head off. Do you remember that shit?
Oh, yes.
I do. Yes. I do.
It was like this big henchman, like.
Yeah, I remember as a kid. Like,
robotic, creepy fucker.
One moment I just think is hilarious. I love in the end when Laurie stabs him in the neck with the sewing needle, and he gets up, pulls it out, and he just collapses in the most pathetic way possible. Like he pulls it out and realizes, oh shit, and then just collapses.
Yeah, it was almost like he fainted when he saw his bone blood
it's
or
just
something.
So funny to me,
dude. That would be
I watched that on loop.
A slasher serial killer has a fear of seeing blood. Or his own blood.
Interesting. You know? Yeah.
That would be great.
Which psychologically kind of works because
can't help
like
but
that. You know?
Kill people, but he's disgusted by it. It's a run.
Own form of exposure therapy or some shit.
Right. There's some funny shit. Sorry, with just the body, the way it lays around and the continuity and how he, how many times she would throw the knife away. Just stupid classic. But
I know
that people are in shock and shit. They make dumb decisions. You're trying to give the benefit of the doubt.
And to sit there and catch your breath with him in the background with your back to him. There's no way I'm sitting there just like
dude.
with.
You're alone, right?
Yeah. Is it cool if I start filming now?
No, what do we get inside?
Why are you here?
I just thought it was really interesting, that someone hasn't left their basement in 6 months, not even to use the bathroom. Is that true?
Why would I want to go out there? I got everything I need right here. That's what's wrong with most people. They're weak-willed pussies and parasites who buy into that whole "it takes a village" bullshit. You know how many aliases I've used calling into radio shows?
I've had it up to my goddamn gills with the systematic feminization of this country.
I don't think I'm important what you want, Jeff. Get your own damn show if you think you got that much to say.
You live in your mom's basement.
Kid! No! Fuck you! What's so special about my loser son?
You really do hate your own mother.
She's a woman. Why wouldn't I?
There's some disconnect there, and if I could find it, what is hate? Where does it come from? Where does it go?
You want to know what gender you are? Reach down the front of your fucking pants and shoot fucking kite. Black Lives Matter. Do you call horses slaves? Liberal fucktard. Enough with the parades and the rainbow flags.
Dude, this guy's... it's like pure hate, man.
Want to see something really fucking cool?
This guy is a fucking animal. He's got himself on a leash. He's itching to get off that fucking leash. And he's gonna fucking kill some people.
What a fucking show.
Stop!
What do we hear?
Look at me! Look at me!
You're gonna help me show him the light. We're gonna change the world.
This is Cactus Jack coming to you live from a studio audience.
To the man who calls himself Cactus Jack, we have watched as you have rocketed to infamy.
And you wonder why these cornered animals lash out. Pick a fucking side.
And now, we have watched as you have called for literal blood.
I know you're out there listening. It's buzzing in your ears, burrowing into your brain.
Do it.
Jack, you're gonna love this.
I pulled that trigger on that motherfucker's head.
Your VPN will not shield you. The darknet will not hide you. You and your kind are finished.
You think I'm scared of you?
Come and fucking get me!
Might I be your neighbor? Neighbor?